Now, obviously, unless we know the truth of what happened in that fight between the two families on the driveway of Janie's property, then we're not really going to know just how important it is with regards to the case. And of course, trying to get any sort of truth out of anybody in this case is pretty much an exercise in futility. However, best we can do is look at what has been said and try and find a little bit of truth in there somewhere. Of course, when it does come to this fight on the end of the driveway, there are a lot of people who have spoken about it because there were a lot of people there. So in this video, I'm going to go through all the audio that I've found discussing this fight on the driveway and see if we can figure out what actually did happen and if it has any bearing on this case. Now, before I get onto that, I do want to address a comment by the admin of one of the larger Jack and Lily Facebook pages, because honestly, this holier-than-thou attitude doesn't look good on you, Christine. So her comment was that she's basically talking about YouTubers and how low of a person do you have to be a laptop for people who monetize off missing children. You guys should order some lawn signs with that money. Well, my answer to you, Christine, in rig, is basically, why is my time less valuable than your time? Not only does it take time to create YouTube content, but it costs money. There is the cost of purchasing and upkeeping equipment. There is ongoing subscription costs for editing software. And maybe where you live you get free data, but here in Australia we pay a monthly amount for a certain amount of data. And when we go over that amount, we have to purchase more. When you are uploading content on a daily basis, you'd be amazed how much data you go through. When you take out expenses, I'm pretty certain that if your employer offered you the hourly rate that many of us YouTubers basically get for our work, that you would laugh at them and walk away. I think one thing that a lot of people forget is that there are so many missing people, missing children's cases out there that don't get a fraction of the attention that this case gets. So instead of attacking YouTubers who are covering this case and getting exposure for this case, you should be thanking them for their time. Now, I did just a little bit of math before I got on here and started this video. And all I did was look up new videos that have gone up in the past 24 hours. And I know I've missed a few of the larger content creators because they appear to have used different tags on their videos. So because I don't actually subscribe to those creators, unless I sat there and manually searched up each one of those creators, then, I could be there all day. So just from a very quick search, and like I said, I can name 2 or 3 large creators that I have not included in this count, but only looking at videos that have been uploaded in the last 24 hours, the view count on YouTube alone is just under 30,000 views. That is a heck of a lot of exposure for Jack and Lily's case. How much media coverage has the case had in the last 24 hours? None. So if we look at statistics for last year, there were over 32,000 children reported missing. There are still hundreds of children reported missing, and I'm just talking about Canada. There are hundreds and hundreds in every state in the United States. There are children missing here in Australia. But I'm wondering how many of those you could name. How many of those are getting coverage from YouTube channels? So instead of attacking YouTube channels for being paid for our time, essentially, and barely, you should be thanking us for covering these cases, for our dedication to these cases. As for ordering some lawn signs, first of all, I don't think that a lawn sign out here in Bendigo, Australia is going to make much of a difference. But aside from that, I find it extremely admirable that this is happening, that people are putting these lawn signs out there. But I question the effectiveness of signs where by the time you've driven past, you wouldn't have even had enough time to really see the faces on the children or even figure out what the sign was about, because there is just far too much writing on that sign. It should be a simple sign with massive pictures of Jack and Lily and with missing plastered across the top. And then in smaller writing on the bottom, the contact number for RCMP. That is all the information that needs to be on those signs. So, no, I'm not going to invest in a sign where people driving past are going to have no idea what's on that sign. And Jade Robinson, no, I am not ashamed that I am covering this case and that I am earning money for covering this case. And I tell you what, when you donate every penny that you earn at work, every penny of your income, then, and prove it, then I will donate every penny that I earn from making content about this case. I'm doing this for Jack and Lily. I'm doing this because these two children need to be found. And you know what? I'm not going anywhere until they are found and until there is a resolution to this case. And if that means that I get reimbursed a little bit for my time, well, I think that's well and truly fair. And I know that there's people who are going to come at me for making this comment at the start of my video, but someone's got to say it. We're here, those of us who are covering this case on YouTube, we're here serving a purpose. We're getting the coverage out there that mainstream media aren't. We're getting the attention on this case that mainstream media aren't. So no apologies here. So with that said, let's get back in and talk about this argument at the end of the driveway. Now I'm just going to say in anticipation, thank you to the channels who are probably going to discuss this themselves as a result of me putting this video out, and who are going to do the right thing and give recognition to my channel. You know who you are, and I appreciate that you do the right thing when you do follow through and create your own content discussing what I've discussed here. I know that seems like a bit of a backwards way of doing it, but I don't often get the time to jump in and watch other people's content. And I get emails from my subscribers saying, hey, you know, this person gave you a shout out, and I never really get a chance to go over to their channel and say thank you. So this is me giving recognition here to those people who do the right thing and acknowledge when they are using my content or when they are responding to my content. So that's just a general global thank you. Okay, so on that note, let's jump in.
Okay, to save everybody trouble, here is what happened at the end of my driveway, the altercation. My brother, me and Justin were out on the four-wheeler. We were up at the pipeline. We were coming out at the road called the Matheson Road. Malaya called me on my phone. She called me at 3:32. I didn't answer because we were talking to a lady on her four-wheeler with a child. Then she called me back at 5:39. I answered the phone. She told me to get back here to the trailer. I said, what's up? She said, I can't tell you over the phone. So I came back here. Me and Justin came back here to the trailer. Marlea was standing on the edge of the driveway, crying her eyes out. I went up and I put my arms around her and said, please don't tell me that they found the kids dead. Haley started shooting off about something. And then I think it was Shelby. I'm not 100% sure. She started shooting off. I ordered them off my property. The police or the RCMP came and asked me what was going on, if there was a fight. I said there was no fight. I just ordered them off my property. He took me aside. He has it all video cammed. He took me aside and asked me what happened. I said, Malaya, exactly the same thing. Malaya called me. I came back here to the trailer. I thought the kids were dead. Then Haley and this other girl, I think it was Shelby, I can't be 100% right, started shooting off. I told him to get off my property. He asked me what the altercation was about. I said I didn't know. I didn't listen to them. I wasn't fighting with anybody. I told him that the most important thing was to find Lily and Jack. He agreed with me. I did not order Malaya off the property.
There's several versions of Janie saying exactly the same thing. So her approach to this is to deflect. She basically says, well, Haley was shooting off about something. Shelby was shooting off about the same thing, apparently. Note how she doesn't go into specifics. Instead, the details that she gives are all about her actually being off on the pipeline trail, and Malaya rang her and she went back and Malaya was crying and she put her arm around Malaya, or like as if that's going to happen. So she's trying to deflect from the question of what was the fight about by talking about events before and after. She talks about the lead up to her throwing Haley and Shelby and everybody else off the property. But she very carefully sidesteps around what was going on. And then she follows through, still deflecting, and speaks about the RCMP officer asking her what was going on and how he got it on the camera, and asking her, what happened. And she's like, the most important thing here is Jack and Lily. Major deflection, no solid information whatsoever. But she gives herself away quite a bit, because first of all, she says, when she's asked by the RCMP officer what's going on, she says there's no fight. I just ordered them off my property. So just randomly, these people have come here to help search for these children that you claim are your grandchildren, and you've just ordered them off your property. Go away, we don't want your help searching for Jack and Lily. And yet at the end you're saying the most important thing here is Jack and Lily. Well, that doesn't sound like the most important thing here is Jack and Lily. And then when she relays the officer asking her what happened, she repeats basically her being up on the pipeline trail and Malaya contacting her. She doesn't give any details of the argument. And then, after originally saying there was no fight, she says she didn't know what it was about because she didn't listen. So we have a fight that is clearly loud enough, clearly aggro enough to get the attention of one of the RCMP officers. And Janie claims that first she claims there was no fight, and then she claims that she didn't know what it was about because she didn't listen. And at the same time, she's talking about Haley shooting off about something and Shelby shooting off about something and her ordering them off the property. Well, then obviously it was a significant fight. And why are you going to order someone off the property just randomly if you don't know what's going on? That to me is just the biggest load of BS I've ever heard. So straight up, the biggest thing that I take here from what Janie is telling us is the fight was over her family. And that whoever it was about, whatever it was about, is something that clearly she feels some amount of shame over, meaning that it is something factual, something real about someone in her family, because otherwise she would be saying what it was about. Her reluctance to name up what the fight was about says to me that the fight was about something factual, something truthful. Now, if someone had just made an allegation that was unfounded, then I would have expected her to say, someone made this unfounded allegation. Someone claimed that Daniel was responsible for the children going missing, and that's a lie. But instead, she dodges around it and she does not want to tell the listener what the fight was about. So in actual fact, while it may seem like Janie has told us nothing, she's already given us a big piece of information about this argument. This argument involves someone in her family, and it involves someone saying something that is truthful. Otherwise, she's not going to dance around it like she has. Now, the next bit of audio is a little bit hard to pick up on because it's audio from Wade. But I think it's important because, as we all know from listening to the audio of him, he hasn't got a dog in this fight. So he has no reason to lie. So while he doesn't give us a great deal of information about the fight, because he reacted in the way I would have done and basically went, okay, I'm out of here. But he does actually have some observation to share. There are subtitles, but I will also give you a Cliff Notes version at the end.
I'm up to Cindy's son's sister. What's her name?
Son's sister.
Haley. Must have heard Haley.
Haley Mackenzie.
She goes, "You get out of my fucking yard." That's what the Janie come right up to her. "You get out of my fucking yard. Don't you accuse my fucking son of it." And I just walked up the top of the hill. I ain't giving no fucking.
So, only a small bit of information, but still significant. What Wade is saying here is that what he caught was Janie yelling at Haley and saying, "Don't you accuse my son of this," and telling her to get off her land. So far we already have confirmation from both Janie and Wade that this fight was definitely over something that either Daniel or Justin did. Or at least something that Daniel was accused of doing, which sounds like it was probably right on the money, because otherwise, like I said, if it was something that was unfounded, there would be no reason for Janie to be just referring to it as something and to be basically deflecting from actually saying what the argument was about.
Because one moment there was an altercation at the end of the driveway, which was me and one of Malaya's family members screaming at each other. And the cops were called down. So when the cops came down, they took Malaya aside. They took my mother aside because my mother said she was part of the altercation, which she was. I was as well. And my aunt. We all got spoken to by the police.
So again, now you've got Logan trying to downplay it. She begins by describing it as between her and one of Malaya's family. But then when she talks about one of the Mounties actually speaking to them, she dumps the rest of them in it. Malaya was part of it. Her own mother was part of it. And her aunt. Guess who her aunt is? Janie Mackenzie. So yes, Janie was in the thick of it, even though she claims that she got there, she makes it sound like she got there after the argument had occurred, because she's like, well, Malaya rang me while I was up on the pipeline and I came down and she was in tears and, it was all this very evasive stuff. So now we're discovering it was actually quite an altercation. We have Logan, we have two members of Malaya's family, because Janie has named up Shelby and Haley. We have Malaya, we have Logan's mother, and we have Janie. I tell you what, I would love to see a report written by one of the Mounties about this fight, because I think there's probably some quite interesting information that came out at that point in time. But again, this is something that was quite full on. This is not just some flippant thing some minimal thing like Janie and Logan are trying to make it sound. It is certainly something significant and something that Logan and Janie are both avoiding mentioning what it was actually about.
I do just want to touch on a subject, though.
Absolutely.
The family altercation that happened in the driveway. I was there for that. So there's a big piece that Logan has left out, and I'm ready to share that because we all know and have not said anything. But it's a very crucial point that they seem to be skipping over. So this was just before the briefing, if I can remember quite right here. We were all in the house and Dan was in the bathroom. And when I say we, I'm talking about my sister-in-law, her sister, Leia's mother, my partner. And we were all in the kitchen and we heard like things rustling around in the bathroom. We're like, what the hell? So my stepmom went and knocked on the door and was like, Dan, what's going on? Are you all right? Anyway, my sister-in-law went in and said she needs to use the bathroom. So he came out and he's kind of like hovering. Shelby's with my brother. She's my sister-in-law and Cheryl is Shelby's sister. So, so like he was wrestling some things around in the bathroom. And we went in to kind of investigate after him. And there was drugs. Drugs was involved, and that's what fueled the family altercation in the driveway. And I'll be the one to say that because I got so freaking mad after this was found out, because then I said to him, I said, that's exactly why you're acting the way you are, running around like a madman, acting like you're doing everything and everybody's just sitting back, like relaxing. Like nobody was, but nobody was running around like a chicken with their head cut off because we weren't on drugs. Do you know what I mean? But that's what the altercation was, because I was like, I confronted his family. It was actually me. And I said, what the hell, guys? Like, what's going on here? Like, why is that involved? My sister broke down and she admitted that he's been on it for 2 years or so. And yeah, so they all got very, very mad when that came about. And they all kind of said, you know what? We already knew that. Well, if you knew that, why the hell is there children in a home with somebody like that? Like, why aren't you protecting the kids that way? Yeah, that was just as Malaya was going down to the press conference. Yeah. So Malaya broke at the end of the driveway. She was crying and I was like, like, what's going on? And she wouldn't talk. And I looked at her and I said, now's the time to talk. Like, you're fucking talking. Like, what's going on? And she broke down and that's what it came about, that he was doing meth.
Okay, so how much of her story can we take as credible also? Yes, I think the argument probably was over Daniel. I think we can narrow in on that. However, she's given us 2 stories within this recount. On one hand, she claims that they discovered that Daniel was into doing rugs because he was making rustling noises in the bathroom. But then at the end of her story, she claims that they discovered that he was doing it because her half-sister broke down in tears on the driveway and told her that this was what was going on. So how much of her story can we believe? I mean, she's consistent in terms of saying that the fight was over Daniel doing rugs, but her explanation of it is not so truthful. Did they find out because he was rustling around in the bathroom and they found things in the bathroom? Or did they find out because she confronted Malaya on the driveway and Malaya told her? So I'm not sure how much of this to believe. However, we have heard that Daniel was apparently doing courses, which were basically like, detox type things. And while some genius in the comment section of whichever video it was that I discussed it in said, oh, he's probably just trying to better himself. No. People don't just do these whole list of, and I think this was in one of the articles, wasn't it? We were given this list of things to do with alcohol, rugs, violence, anger, all these sort of things that Daniel was apparently doing courses on. And my comment, well, they must have been part of the agreement with RCMP. And of course someone's like, no, he's probably just doing it, off his own bat because he likes to do those sort of things. Like, BS, come on, get real. So we've had that verification from media saying that he was doing these courses. We've had Dimwit claiming that he knows that Daniel does rugs. Now, Dimwit is probably the least credible source out of all these individuals, but at the same time, his narrative from day one has always been in support of Daniel. He's so blatantly batting for Daniel that for him to be saying that Daniel is or was into rugs, that to me says that, yes, I think there is definitely some truth in that. If that's what the argument was about, maybe. But we only have one source saying that that is what the argument is about. But that said, this is the only bit of information we've been given so far with regards to what the argument could possibly have been about on the driveway. And if it was about rugs, well, then that is significant in terms of Jack and Lily. Because I agree with Hayley. If that was the situation, those children should not have been in that house.
So
Okay.
that fueled the family fight that there was. And I mean, yes, Janie or whatever her name was did go at Cheryl. Logan was trying to fight everybody in the driveway. They kicked us off the property because we found out something that nobody was supposed to find out, right?
Now, there's got to be a good reason to chuck them off the property. So, obviously, whatever was going on was significant. So, yeah, maybe there is truth in what she's saying here. We certainly haven't had anything from anyone else so far saying what the fight was about. Now, she's added in here, Cheryl was also part of the fight. So it was Cheryl, Shelby, Hayley, Logan, Janie, Logan's mother, and Malaya was on the sidelines apparently, or part of the fight, who knows. So that would have been one full-on, all-out argument. And here she's saying that Janie went at Cheryl. So now she's actually saying that Janie was involved. So we've had two people now who are saying that Janie was involved, even though Janie is claiming that she wasn't involved. She has no idea what it was about. And yet she's the one that was throwing people off the property. So we can be pretty clear here that Janie was in the thick of it, which certainly makes it questionable that she claims not to know about what the fight was about or refers to it as something. Now things are going to start to heat up a little bit here because, unfortunately, we don't get to hear much from the few people who've actually spoken up from Malaya's side of the family, because the content creator that they actually chose to speak to was so incredibly rude to them that they certainly weren't going to go back. And what you get happening here is that you have Cheryl, who had rung into this content creator and was giving her side of the story, and rather than listen to her side of the story and give her a chance to just finish saying her story and then just, politely question her herself, instead she set Logan onto her. She literally brought Logan up onto panel and, well, you will hear how it goes.
And Malaya didn't leave Saturday morning. It was Saturday evening because an altercation had broken out and Daniel's mother actually tried to attack me. So it was well after supper Saturday when she actually left the premises.
Unfortunately, we don't get any clarification in terms of what she meant by Janie trying to attack her, because like I said, this content creator wasn't really interested in listening to this woman and instead wanted to just pit Logan up against her. So we don't know if this is an over-exaggeration, if this is more of an emotional description, saying Janie tried to attack, meaning that maybe Janie was very verbally abusive, which I could see that happening. And in Cheryl's mind, that was trying to attack her. She doesn't describe it as a physical attack. It could have been a verbal attack. Everyone sees things differently. To Cheryl, it could have been... I mean, you've heard Janie's voice. If she was coming at me, I would probably refer to it as trying to attack me. But again, it's showing that Janie outright lied when it comes to this altercation. She was smack bang in the middle of it, and it sounds like she was possibly one of the main aggressors.
We left Saturday evening, not
after the
Saturday
briefing.
morning.
After the briefing on Lansing.
No, it was after the altercation.
You left, but Malaya didn't.
We all left. Malaya
No.
went with her mother. I
Yes.
left. My sister left. My sister-in-law left. We all left at the same time.
Yes, but the altercation was before the briefing, honey.
Meow. You come at me and call me honey? Like that? I'm surprised that Cheryl didn't really let fly at this woman. You can see that this creator has basically set up a really bad situation here. And Logan has come in on the offensive straight out, and Cheryl's not going to get a chance to finish telling her side of the story adequately. So Cheryl was trying to explain that the altercation happened before the briefing and that they left after the briefing, and yet Logan has jumped on her and basically not listened to what she said, and in an extremely patronising tone has basically told her she's wrong, even though she's just reaffirmed what Cheryl just said.
And
We all
then
went
there
out.
was one after because your mother was involved in that one.
Yes, and that's when we were
Yes.
saying about the car.
I'm
And
not
then
sure
I
about
don't know who came back looking for the cell phone, and we were trying to get Malaya's grandmother to leave the house. Yes.
Yes.
But Malaya left right after the briefing. You guys didn't. Malaya left right from the briefing.
5 minutes before us, yeah.
So essentially, by allowing Logan to come up and verbally attack Cheryl, we've got very little information out of Cheryl thanks to this moronic creator. Like, you know, if someone wants to come up and talk about this case, wouldn't you do best to actually listen to them? Because you might find out some important information. But no, she just wanted the drama. So instead she brought up Logan, and Logan basically snapped at this woman till she left. So the only information that we got from Cheryl is basically that there were two arguments, which is the only time we've heard this from anyone, and this has been confirmed by Logan. But we never actually get to hear Cheryl's version of how the argument began. So the original argument, the one that caused Malaya to leave, the only person who's given us any suggestion of where that comes from is basically Hayley. We don't know what Cheryl was going to tell us, because after Logan started attacking her verbally, Cheryl basically took off, and we didn't hear anything more from her. But it is interesting that she mentions that Logan's mother was involved in the argument after the briefing, and this was over Malaya's car, Malaya's cell phone, and over Patty not wanting to leave. So I think it's Logan who slings the accusations about how, you know, Malaya was in such a hurry to leave that she didn't even take her car with her, and yah. But now we're hearing that there was an argument over Malaya's car and Malaya's cell phone. That says to me that maybe someone was trying to collect Malaya's car and weren't being provided with the keys for the car. Likewise, maybe someone wasn't being provided with Malaya's cell phone. We don't know if the cell phone was handed over. Presumably it was, because at some point in time Malaya had it to hand over to the RCMP. So we have confirmation, because we have people from both sides. We have confirmation there was an argument over the car and the cell phone, and that there was an issue over Patty not wanting to leave, and then Hayden came and collected her. But we have nobody at all from Daniel's side wanting to say what this argument was about, the initial argument. And we didn't get to hear from Cheryl, because the tweet that was allowing her up on her channel basically decided to set Logan onto her rather than take the time to listen to what she had to say. So maybe it is about rugs. Because the only two things I can see in terms of accusations here would be an accusation about rugs or an accusation about Daniel being the one having been responsible for what happened. Now, this video wouldn't be complete without hearing from Dingbat, so I'm going to play you his version of the argument. Now, this is one of the earlier accounts that was given by him, and I will come back and I will comment after it, but I just want to point out that this guy was making up stories from the very beginning, so I really don't put a lot of stock in anything that he has to say, but I'm going to play it anyway. So let's just listen to what Dingbat thought the argument was about.
It was actually Logan and Malaya's mother that were fighting. They were supposedly fighting over. Should I say that? They were supposedly fighting over Daniel's position in it all. Daniel's mother came out when Logan and Cindy were screaming at each other. And Daniel's mother put a stop to it by ordering them off the property.
Now, I've noticed when this guy can't think of the next part of his story, he comes up with these little veiled comments. So he can't think of what Cindy and Logan were fighting over, so he says Daniel's position in it all. So he's no more helpful than anybody else, especially because we've not heard anybody else mention Cindy being involved, and it really doesn't sound like Cindy was involved, because nobody else has mentioned Cindy, and we've had a pretty extensive list given. And also note the way he basically makes Janie the hero in it. She broke it up. She had nothing to do with it. She broke it up and ordered them off the property. Now, I was looking for another audio from Durwood where he claims that the argument was over Meadow. Cindy and Logan arguing over Meadow. I don't know if I've imagined that because I haven't found that audio, or if that actually did exist. But I think we can be pretty certain that anything from Durwood is complete utter BS. So is the driveway fight significant? I think possibly. I would really love to hear from Cheryl or Hayley if they are willing to speak and actually hear what they were trying to say when they came forward and spoke about this argument on the end of the driveway. Because it seems like they chose the wrong person to speak to. I don't normally make a point of speaking to family members who are connected with these cases. Not unless those family members are definitely uninvolved in any way. However, I'm willing to listen if Cheryl or Hayley want to email me and share their side of the story, because it seems like they were not given the opportunity to do so. I will provide my email address in the description for this video, so that should someone from Malaya's side of the family wish to share their side of the story, they are welcome to do so. So what can we actually say about this argument? Well, it turns out there were two. And we have confirmation of that from Logan and Cheryl, because Logan was so busy trying to be argumentative that she didn't manage to brush over that fact. The only thing we know regarding the first argument is that it seems to have definitely been in relation to Daniel. We have the allegation that it was in relation to Daniel using rugs, and we have other information that, yes, he has been using rugs in the past. So that is certainly a possibility. It is also a possibility that maybe there was an accusation made with regards to him being responsible for the children being missing. Although we've not heard anyone say that outright. We've only heard people basically skirting around it on his side of the family, no one giving any solid answers with regards to what the argument is about. And like I said, if it was just an accusation of him being involved, if he wasn't involved, then I can't see people getting as fired up as what they did. So my thoughts are that whatever the argument was about, someone actually hit a raw nerve. Someone actually came up with something that was the truth, and people got upset. And it sounds like one of the number one people who got upset was Janie. Pretty much everyone, aside from Janie and Dimwit, have made it pretty clear that Janie was in the thick of it, and that Janie definitely knew what was going on, because she got so aggravated that she threw everyone off her property. You're not going to throw people off your property if you don't know what's going on. The mention of Malaya's car and Malaya's phone in relation to this argument is really interesting as far as I'm concerned, because to me that sounds like Daniel was trying to control the situation and essentially saying, well, if Malaya's left, she's not getting her car or her phone. Clearly, like I said, someone must have retrieved the phone, because Malaya then had it to hand it over to the RCMP a few days later. As for the car, we've been told that the car was picked up on a tow truck. So that suggests to me that somebody refused to hand over the keys to Malaya's car. Malaya's car, which wasn't even on the property at that time, but was parked around on Lansdowne Road, which is also a little bit suspicious. So is the altercation significant to this case? I actually think it is, because clearly there were allegations made against Daniel, ones that his family don't want to talk about, which to me says they were pretty much on the mark. And it certainly doesn't show him in a good light when it comes to this case. As much as Janie claims that they're all innocent in this and they're being unfairly accused and all this sort of stuff, well, when you hear things like this altercation, it certainly makes me think that they are really not innocent in all this. And that's before we look at all the other lies from Janie, all the lies and inconsistencies from Daniel, and this Durwood guy coming out and basically spinning a yarn, trying to make Malaya look bad, to try and clear Daniel's name. When people are innocent, they don't go to these lengths. So, this does not shine well on either family, actually. So from listening to this audio, I'm still in a position where I feel that Janie, Malaya, Daniel, and possibly even Justin all know what happened to those children, and that at least one of those people was directly involved with whatever occurred. I've noticed Janie has reached the point where she's saying she wants all this to go away. Well, all I have to say to that is this is not going away. Those of us who are covering this case are going to cover this case until those children are found. Jack and Lily deserve that. They were two babies, 4 and 6. And yet you have these people who are too busy trying to cover their own asses to show any concern over what happened to Lily and Jack. That to me says that they know exactly what happened. So on that note, I'm going to wrap it up there. So thanks for listening. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. Also, please hit that like button, get this video out there into the algorithm. And of course, please leave a comment below. Thank you, and I'll catch you in the next one.